Okay, I'm glad you disagree with that, because most people don't, I think. They think that consciousness is the most complex thing in the universe.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a category error to measure the complexity of a consciousness. Right. The complexity of a brain, but by assembly theory, no brains are absolutely identical. Morphologically, have some identity. I think I'm really, as an experimentalist, I need to measure things. And falsify. If I can't measure and falsify, I'm talking garbage, as Jim would say, right? I have to be able to do those experiments. So at the end of the day, I'm really happy to be open, because if I'm wrong, I'm going to get a lot of feedback very quickly about how to correct it. You have a lot of people out there with magical arguments that are too complicated for the average individual to understand, including me.
It seems to me that my taste of this roast beef is much simpler than the roast beef itself. It has no parts.
I mean,
that's two different categories.
It is. It is.
I haven't tried the roast beef yet, so I can't comment.
But Proust wrote for pages and pages and pages about the taste of something, so it can't be that simple. I think you could probably write roast beef.
Questions about it are not simple.
No, but just a description of the taste. I'm not sure taste is simple.
In Christian, Jewish, and Muslim theology, God is absolutely simple, but the questions about him are unanswerably complex.
So I have a question for Jim. Since the roundtable on science and religion, I want to understand what the stakes are for you in your argument, because you were pretty animated, right? And so let me, if you entertain a hypothetical, right? Let's suppose you go forward 300 or 400 years. You have a time machine, and you meet Lee's great, however many greats grandchild, who's also working on the emergence of life, and that person tells you that actually you were totally correct. That looking back, you know, the ideas we had about like the chemistry of the emergence of life now were like hopelessly simplistic. You needed all kinds of new ideas, but they also show you their machine, where they can, like, you know, at one end, like, they pour in whatever, some sugar or whatever simple things you're meant to pour in, and at the other end, you know, the day later you get cells, and they can like take you through, and they can describe the whole process for you. It's like entirely convincing that it could have emerged like this on Earth. Do you feel vindicated, or do you feel like uncomfortable because of your religious views?
Oh, I feel so. I didn't inject any religious convictions in my talk.
That's true.
Okay,
but nevertheless, you have some. So.
Oh, I absolutely do. But I just wanted to put that out there. But no, I feel totally vindicated. I feel totally vindicated because I think that there's phenomena that. So the molecules in my mind are fighting against moving toward life, and you really push them, you use all sorts of ingenuity. In Lee's lab, he has all these robots adding in certain orders and certain times and certain chemicals, and you keep pushing them toward it, and it's so hard to have them move toward life. So just recently, just in the last couple of days, Dimitar Suslov here at Harvard has used chiral-induced spin selectivity to help him to get crystallization to enhance chirality in some crystals. This is using this new phenomenon. You see that, hey, maybe there is a route to really enhance chirality through a new phenomenon that wasn't even around when I was in school. So I think there's many new things that we're going to have to learn before we're going to be able to solve this problem, because many smart people have pushed and pushed and pushed on this, and it doesn't seem to have advanced. Not only we're further back because the cell is progressing further away from us at a faster rate. So if somebody can duplicate life, that's great. Just like when Watson and Crick published the genome, the way a genome stores information. That doesn't make God less in my eyes. That makes him all the more magnanimous.
No, that's fine. So just to be clear, at the beginning you said, at the very beginning of your talk, you said that you think we will figure it out.
Yes.
But it was a very brief statement. So just to be clear, so you do believe, like, in the end, there's a naturalistic explanation for the emergence of life?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see, just like I'm using the analogy of the genetic code, where we're going to go, oh, Lord, that's how you did it. That's how you did it. That's how information is stored in the cell. You know, prior to that, if you were 200 years ago, say you were in 1750, and you asked somebody about genetic code, for them to have said, "Oh well, we've pretty much gotten this figured out. You know, if parents are tall, the kid's going to be tall. If they're short, the kid's going to be short." Mm-hmm. Right. That does a disservice to it, to trivialize it in that manner. But we didn't have the tools to really do this. We got crystallography, and we are able to begin to see these things. So I don't think we even have the tools to do this well. Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. So then, if molecules don't move towards life by themselves,
yes,
and life somehow evolved from molecules, then the missing X factor must be either natural or supernatural. It must be either the environment or a creator, right?
Could you speak up a little bit?
What?
Could you speak up a little bit?
Yeah. If, as Jim said, molecules do not spontaneously and by themselves move towards cells, then since we know that cells came after molecules, some other force than the molecules themselves must have moved them. Now, that force must be external to molecules, and it must be either outside of molecules in the environment, or it must be some force outside the universe, right?
I mean, I must correct us. We don't know that. Everything on Earth is pretty much touched by biology in some way. We don't know that every planet in the sky around life doesn't emerge eventually. I think we're taking a very parochial view. And I think that there are some quite fundamental missing scientific phenomena that we're jutting up against. And I think and it's quite interesting. You can see back in the history of science where this has happened again and again and again. Jim, I don't really know what your agenda is. It's a bit weird because on the one hand you're so angry and aggressive against just the process of normal science, right? It's like you're saying, oh, this is garbage and that's an idiot and that's a loser and they don't know anything. That's the process of science, right? We come up with models, we refute them in a civil way. I think we make more progress by doing it in a civil way. And then we go, oh, I don't know who your audience is. I came here tonight hoping you weren't going to get up there and shout and misquote. And I refuse to get in that conversation. I came here in good faith. What I would say is there's something super interesting what's going on. And the reason why I came here tonight wasn't to address your ludicrous claims, was more to say, hey, let's put our best foot forward for new scientists out there. People are skeptical. People want to learn more and find where the new interesting problems are in science. Because the framing is a bit wrong. We knew there was lightning, we knew that we could capture electricity, we knew static electricity, we didn't know anything about it. Same when we came to the antibiotic revolution. And there is a lot of cultural artifacts we have to deal with. So I'm kind of puzzled, but you had a question which but I just like to put it out there because what I want to do with the panel interview, I'm only going to take part in the panel interview if we actually really put away our kind of let's just make statements for claims and actually ask, well, what is interesting? What do you find confusing? Where are the new problems? Because we'll build a better community, right? In physics, we got a lot of particle physicists together. They had to work together because it's so expensive to do those experiments, right? But anyway, I will stop there. But I just think there is a more nuanced. We should criticize. Absolutely, you're right to say, no, I don't accept that. That doesn't pass my test scientifically. But if you do it in a way that doesn't make people scared to engage, why do you think none of those people engage with you? They didn't engage with you because it looked like the rantings of a person that were not wanting to have a discussion. And I know you a little bit. I know some of the chemistry you do. It's great. So I came here to kind of de-amplify that and have a more nuanced conversation.
Well, I think we want to know, I'm kind of interested in what you're doing in your lab toward this problem and why you think these people, many of whom I know, are scam artists, because I'm pretty sure they're not.
Yeah.
And I think they're real scientists and very good scientists. I don't know about Lee, but I don't know him, but I'm interested in what you want to happen.
So I don't think that anybody is setting out to scam anybody. I don't think that anybody's out to intentionally scamming people. I think that what happens is when you say that we'll have life in the lab in 3 years, when we have life in the lab of 5 years, that's a disservice to the field. When on the other side you get into a professional meeting and you say, I can't even make the RNA. And there's a long distance between the RNA and life.
You're a scientist, right? You know that I may say I'm going to find the top quark in 10 years and it took me 27. I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm lying or scamming
that's exactly
or it's not a disservice, though. It's also not a disservice.
In nanotechnology, Jim, where you've made claims about what you're going to do in your lab and you haven't done those. You know, you have produced patents. Arguably, they've gone somewhere, but you haven't done the things you said you were going to do. Does that make you working in bad faith?
Yeah. So you're making all good points, Lee. What I think is that you're coming around, like in the interview that I read from Lex Fridman, and I read a long paragraph, and you said even more that I think is really quite accurate. When you start saying, okay, I make a molecule, I make another molecule, I make another molecule, and then what? We just keep making molecules. This is exactly what I have been saying from the people, from the groups that are doing these synthetic things.
I was to say, but science is about disagreement. I'm not saying all the origin life community are in agreement. They are disagreeing, but that is the process of science. You're kind of trying to say that's something else. I think that's relatively inaccurate. It's fine to, in fact, we only make progress by disagreeing. Right? I would say some people, when they're doing, so they have a certain set of things they do, they're putting in constraints. I want to understand where those constraints come from. That doesn't mean what they're doing is wrong. It just means I have a different viewpoint.
Okay, so
I don't mind saying that as a layman who's not a scientist, it's helpful when I hear Jim describe how we didn't know that we needed to know something that we found out just recently. In other words, a lot of things we don't know about how to detect how life would have begun, that the goalpost is actually farther than we thought. I think that's a phrase I don't mind repeating from Jim.
I think that's
when we discover that the goalpost is really a lot farther than we thought.
I think that's not evidence
to the general public, as opposed to I know it's just a second. As opposed to we're getting closer, it seems like we're getting farther away. It is so much farther away than we thought. Go ahead, Dina.
Yeah. So I think the clue is
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah. So I think the clue is Jim's statement that says like the public is being misled. And what do you think about that? I mean, like, what is at stake about the communications of the origins of life? Because I got complaints as well from scientists that so many hype about the origins of life, and it seems like every research coming out, it is the answers of the origins of life, and it seems that you have problem with that. And what is at stake?
So I gave you these statistics of the general public, how grossly wrong they are. So we as a community have put forward something that is grossly incorrect, information that is grossly incorrect, that is starting in textbooks from the elementary school level, and the primordial soup model is taught not just into college, but into advanced college classes, that model. So things are not nearly as comfortable as you might think. And so I think we do a disservice to students if we start saying that this is how life came about, when there's no indication that life has come about this way.
There are textbooks on molecular transistors that you have built and conjectured they never worked. So shall we take those ideas out of the textbook? Science is about putting out models that then get replaced with better models after we look at the fundamental problems, so we have better explanations. No one has said the primordial model is the way it happened. That it is well grounded. There are many things in textbooks, molecular electronics, nanotechnology, that have not come to pass.
Melissa's obviously. No.
I was just wanted to say.
You're frustrated here and here.
The big dig was
Dave, I'm conscious there's a question here as well. You had one a few minutes ago.
I'm sorry.
What would you put
Wait,
in a
wait.
high school textbook
He wants to ask.
on this topic?
Actually,